I'm Julia Reynolds, 34, and last Christmas in Asheville, North Carolina, changed everything between my sister and me. When Samantha's elegant holiday invitation arrived in early December 2023, I was genuinely excited until the phone rang. "About Christmas, Julia," Samantha said coolly. "Don't bring your family. They're not really our kind of people. Just you." Her words hit like frostbite. For over a decade, I'd been the steady one, working night shifts as an ER nurse, managing bills, and raising my twins on a shoestring budget, while Samantha enjoyed spa weekends and designer handbags funded by others. I used to tell myself, family is family, but this was something else. I had a choice to make. Before I take you through what happened when I showed up anyway, leave a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you've ever been made to feel like you didn't measure up. My kids, Liam and Ava, are 9 years old. They're smart, kind, and love marshmallows in their cocoa. We live in a cozy 2-bedroom townhouse on the edge of town. It may not have granite countertops, but it's full of warmth and laughter. Growing up, Samantha and I shared a cramped attic room in rural Virginia, but even back then, we couldn't have been more different. While I spent afternoons tutoring neighbors' kids for extra cash, Samantha flipped through fashion catalogs and dreamed of luxury. She once told me at 17, "I'll marry money." That's my plan. Our parents were small-town librarians, grounded in values like humility and kindness. My dad often said, "Money shows up in photos, but character shows up in hard times." Mom believed the truest form of wealth was how you made people feel. I carried those values into adulthood. After nursing school, which I funded with scholarships and endless night shifts, I married Ethan, a carpenter with kind eyes and a good heart. We had Liam and Ava, but Ethan passed away unexpectedly 5 years ago. Since then, it's been just me and the kids. Samantha, meanwhile, dropped out of school after meeting Cameron, a hotel executive's son. Within months, they were married at a vineyard in Napa, complete with a harpist and imported roses. Our parents couldn't afford much for the wedding, but I gave up the bonus I earned during flu season to help pay for the custom table centerpieces she insisted on. And still, we weren't classy enough. You won't believe what happened when I walked into that Christmas party, with my children at my side. She always said she'd pay me back one day, but that day never came. Instead, it became a cycle. Samantha would call me late at night, her voice trembling about a missed car payment or how humiliating it would be to skip a luxury spa weekend with Cameron's colleagues' wives. Each time, I'd wire money with the promise it was temporary, until things got stable. But stability never came. Over 15 years, I quietly sent her close to $60,000, money I should have spent on my own family. Why did I keep doing it? Maybe because I still saw the little girl who used to hide in my bed during thunderstorms. Maybe I carried too much guilt from our childhood. Or maybe I believed her when she said she and Cameron would pay me back with interest once their real estate empire took off. What no one knew, not even Cameron, was that his family's money was largely tied up in long-term commercial investments. Samantha's obsession with luxury, the handbags, the salon memberships, the party planners, was secretly bankrolled by my overtime pay and holiday double shifts. Every year, her Christmas parties became more elaborate, and her judgment sharper. Last December, she called my minivan retro chic, and gently suggested Ava take etiquette lessons. I bit my tongue. I always tried to put family above pride, just like Mom and Dad taught us. And despite it all, my kids loved her. To Liam and Ava, she was the dazzling aunt with the giant house and a fridge full of imported soda. Ava had been counting down to Samantha's holiday party for weeks, eager to see the famous chocolate fountain and 12-foot Christmas tree. Liam had even made a glittery star ornament for her tree in school art class. He wrapped it carefully in a paper towel roll and tucked it in his backpack, asking every night if I thought Aunt Samantha would hang it. "She likes sparkly things," he said, pressing the tape down tight. The invitation arrived mid-November, elegant cardstock with gold foil snowflakes. We circled the date on our wall calendar and started saving what we could for gifts and outfits. Then came the phone call. "Julia, just you this year?" It's not that I don't love the kids, but they're not really the kind of guests this party is meant for. I had to sit down. My hands trembled. I thought of every canceled family trip, every second job I'd picked up so she could maintain her image. I wanted to scream. Instead, I texted Rachel, my best friend and fellow nurse. She came over with a bottle of red. She said, "What?" Rachel blinked, pouring us both full glasses. "Oh, no. This year, you're showing up, and not alone. After everything you've done for her? Julia, you need to cut her off completely." Rachel's voice was firm as she refilled our glasses. "It's not that simple," I sighed, glancing toward the hallway where Liam and Ava were finishing up their math homework. "They love their aunt, and despite everything, she's still my sister." Rachel frowned. "Julia, your sister has been taking advantage of you for over a decade. You work 60-hour weeks while she's tagging photos from five-star spas and yacht clubs. That's not family. It's freeloading." "I know," I admitted, voice soft. "But family is family. Mom and Dad always said we should look out for each other." Rachel's gaze didn't waver. "They also taught you self-respect. Would they want you and the kids treated like an afterthought?" That question lingered long after Rachel left. The next morning, Ava stood by the fridge, pointing to the wall calendar where we'd circled Samantha's Christmas party in red ink. "How many more days until Aunt Samantha's party?" she asked, practically bouncing. "Do you think her lake is frozen like last year?" Liam wandered in, proudly holding the ornament he'd made. "I hope Uncle Cameron does the treasure hunt again. I almost found the golden snowflake last time." Their joy made my heart ache. How could I explain that we weren't invited? That their aunt didn't think we were refined enough? That the gifts they'd helped pick out, a handmade wool scarf for Samantha and a rare trout fishing guide for Cameron, weren't sophisticated enough for her guest list? That evening, I pulled down the old memory box from the hallway shelf. Inside were pictures of Samantha and me building snowmen in Roanoke, blowing birthday candles out side by side, unwrapping dolls on Christmas morning in matching flannel pajamas. When had all that history, those shared laughs and scrapes and whispered secrets, become less important than labels and appearances? I thought of Dad's voice when Samantha got engaged to Cameron. "Just remember who you are, sweetheart. Where you come from. Money changes things, but not who you are inside." He'd been gone 5 years now. Mom, 3. But I knew what they'd say. Stand your ground, but leave the door open. So I made my decision. We'd go. All 3 of us. If Samantha had a problem with that, she could deal with it in front of her guests. For once, I wouldn't shrink to fit her fantasy. Over the next 2 weeks, we prepared. I used my Christmas bonus to buy Ava a forest green dress that lit up her hazel eyes like fairy lights, and we circled that red star on the calendar with a little more pride. For Liam, I found a sharp little navy blazer and slacks at a consignment boutique in downtown Asheville. It looked practically new. I splurged to have both his and Ava's outfits professionally pressed and booked them hair appointments with Jessie, my longtime friend who worked at a cozy salon near the hospital. For myself, I chose a classic black cocktail dress I'd worn to a hospital charity dinner the year before. Rachel insisted I borrow a jeweled necklace she'd worn once to a medical conference gala. "If you're walking into battle," she said, clipping it around my neck, "you wear the armor you deserve." I also took time to prepare the kids emotionally. Over meatloaf and green beans, I gently brought it up. "Aunt Samantha is very particular about her home," I told them. "So we'll need to use our best manners, like we practiced." Liam looked up, brow creased. "Is Aunt Samantha mad at us?" "No, sweetheart," I said softly. "She just has a different way of doing things. But we're family, and family shows up, even when it's hard." Ava, always more intuitive, tilted her head. "Are you and Aunt Samantha in a fight?" "We just don't always agree," I said carefully. "And that's okay. Grown-ups can love each other and still see the world differently." As Christmas Eve drew closer, my nerves tangled tighter each day. I practiced responses in my head, how I'd handle icy glares, passive-aggressive comments, or being outright asked to leave. But I reminded myself I'd dealt with grieving parents, screaming patients, and sleepless nights in the ER. I could handle this too. For my children, for myself, even for Samantha. because maybe, somewhere under the layers of privilege and pride, she was still my little sister. The night before the party, I checked our gifts one last time. The hand-knit scarf for Samantha was folded neatly inside silver wrapping with a blue velvet ribbon. For Cameron, I paired the fly fishing book with a box of locally tied flies, remembering how he'd mentioned picking up the hobby. For their home, a delicate hand-blown glass ornament from a local artisan. Simple, unique, heartfelt. I barely slept, imagining every outcome of showing up uninvited. But by dawn, I felt calm. We would go, with heads high and hearts steady. That afternoon, as we turned through the towering iron gates of Samantha and Cameron's estate, a hush fell over the car. Fresh snow had blanketed the 5-acre property, turning the lawn and trees into a glowing winter wonderland wrapped in twinkling lights. Workers cleared the long circular drive as we approached the stately Georgian-style mansion. "Wow," whispered Ava, her nose pressed against the window. "It's like a castle," Liam whispered, clutching his wrapped ornament tighter. "Do real princesses live in houses like this?" "Just your Aunt Samantha," I replied, forcing a light tone as I parked behind a polished row of luxury cars. Mercedes, BMWs, and the familiar black Bentley I knew belonged to Cameron's father. The mansion's facade was the very image of a magazine spread. Wreaths and garlands wrapped in satin ribbon framed each window, with towering nutcrackers guarding the front entrance. Cascading poinsettias spilled like a red waterfall down the wide stone steps. It was breathtaking in the way curated beauty always is, flawless, but cold. Ava and Liam hopped out eagerly, carefully navigating the salted path in their polished shoes. I followed, balancing our wrapped gifts and the warm cranberry bread I'd baked that morning. Our mother's old recipe, one Samantha used to beg for as a child. Before we could knock, the heavy double doors opened. Samantha stood there in a crimson cocktail dress that likely cost more than I earn in a month. Her blonde hair was swept into a sleek chignon, and diamonds glittered at her ears and collarbone. For a brief moment, surprise flickered across her face before she composed herself into a practiced smile. "Julia," she said tightly, "and everyone. What a surprise!" Her gaze darted over my shoulder toward the driveway, checking to see if any guests had witnessed our arrival. When she saw no one had, she stepped back, just enough to let us in. "I thought we discussed this," she hissed under her breath as the kids marveled at the 20-foot Christmas tree in the grand foyer. "We did," I replied, calm but firm. "And I decided that my children deserved to spend Christmas with their family, all of their family." Before she could respond, Cameron appeared from the hallway, his smile wide and sincere. "Julia, kids, great to see you." He pulled me into a warm hug, then knelt to fist bump Liam and tell Ava how lovely she looked. "The more the merrier, right, Sam?" "Of course," Samantha replied, her jaw clenched. She reached for our gifts with an expression somewhere between irritation and defeat. "Let me show you where to put these." As we followed her through the marble-floored foyer, the sounds of soft classical carols and clinking champagne glasses floated from the grand salon. Uniformed servers carried trays of appetizers. Guests in formal wear mingled beneath chandeliers. "Cameron's parents are here," Samantha murmured. "The Harrisons, the Bennetts, and the Wilsons just flew in from Vail this morning. Jack Wilson's considering Cameron for that luxury ski lodge project." She said it like a warning, but I smiled. Let her play her game. We weren't here to impress. We were here to be present. I recognized it instantly, a subtle reminder that important people were present, and I was expected to act accordingly. Translation: don't embarrass her. "The kids can hang their coats in the mudroom," Samantha continued, motioning toward a side hallway. "There's a media room downstairs. Brittany, our sitter, is watching the Anderson kids." "Actually," I said gently, "Liam and Ava were really looking forward to being part of the party." Liam stepped forward, holding up his carefully wrapped ornament. "I made this for you, Aunt Samantha." For a brief second, something flickered in Samantha's expression, panic, or perhaps discomfort, before she took the little bundle between two fingers, as if it were a fragile or questionable object. "How thoughtful," she said, her voice forced. "I'll put it somewhere safe. We went with a very strict gold and white theme this year. Liam's smile faltered. His fingers fidgeted at his side. Before I could say anything, Cameron stepped in with perfect timing. "Hey, Liam, why don't we hang that on the family tree in the den? That's where we put our most special ornaments." Liam lit up, and I could have hugged Cameron for stepping in. He walked off with my son chatting excitedly at his side. Meanwhile, Samantha turned to me and Ava, keeping her voice low. "Try not to bring up work. The Wilsons are very squeamish, and all that hospital talk makes them uncomfortable. And if anyone asks where you live, just say north of town. Let's not get into specifics." I stared at her, but before I could respond, she ushered us into the great room. Conversations dipped as heads turned. I felt Ava's small hand grip mine tighter as her eyes scanned the sea of formal wear and glittering jewels. Samantha plastered on a smile. "Everyone, this is my sister Julia and my niece Ava," she announced. "They decided to surprise us tonight." Polite greetings followed, though I noticed the glances, subtle, assessing, and familiar, the kind that said Samantha had likely already told them all they needed to know. Within minutes, Ava was gently pulled into a conversation with another girl her age. I accepted a glass of champagne from a passing server and used the moment to take in the room. The decor was breathtaking, crystal and silver accents with rich burgundy details. Fresh floral arrangements adorned the tables, and a crackling fire glowed beneath an enormous stone hearth. I was admiring a reindeer ice sculpture when I overheard Samantha near the bar. "Yes, that's my sister," she said softly to two well-dressed women. "She's a single mom, nurse at the hospital. I try to include her when I can. Charity starts at home, right?" One of the women touched Samantha's arm, eyes full of admiration. I felt the burn of embarrassment rise in my chest, but I didn't move. I just watched. Because this time, I wasn't going to stay silent. I felt my cheeks flush, but I kept my composure, reminding myself why I'd come. This wasn't about me. It was about Liam and Ava, about showing them that they were worthy of love and inclusion, no matter their zip code or how much their outfits cost. For the next half hour, I made polite conversation with a stream of Samantha's acquaintances, most of whom reacted with visible surprise upon learning she even had a sister. I smiled, nodded, and bided my time. Eventually, I excused myself to check on the kids. I found Ava kneeling on the carpet beside a low table, patiently helping a younger child glue sequins to felt stockings, her nurturing heart on full display. In the nearby den, Liam beamed with pride as Cameron's father complimented the glittery star ornament, now hung proudly on a smaller family tree. As I stood watching them, Samantha suddenly appeared at my elbow. "We need to talk," she said tightly, motioning for me to follow. She led me into a powder room, closed the door, and crossed her arms over her ruby-red designer gown. "What were you thinking? Showing up after I told you not to?" I met her glare calmly. "I was thinking that family doesn't exclude family from Christmas, and that my children deserve better than being labeled beneath you." "You know what I meant," she snapped. "This night matters. Cameron's business contacts are watching everything." "And we ruin that how? Exactly? Because Liam's ornament wasn't gold-trimmed? Because we don't shop at designer boutiques?" "Don't be dramatic," she rolled her eyes. "Appearances matter, Julia. That's just how this world works." "To your world, maybe," I replied. "The one where perception matters more than people. Do they know your perfect life has been bankrolled by your nurse sister for 15 years? Her eyes widened. "Keep your voice down. That's not fair. I've had temporary cash flow issues. That's all." 15 years of temporary issues, I said quietly. "But we're not here to talk about money. We're here because we're family. My children are behaving beautifully, and I expect the same from you." Without waiting for her rebuttal, I opened the door and stepped back into the hallway. My heart racing, but my spine straight. Whatever game Samantha was playing, I was done playing along. At precisely 7, a server struck a delicate crystal chime. The guests flowed toward the formal dining room, where a long mahogany table gleamed beneath a vintage chandelier. Fine china and polished silver glistened at every place setting. But as I scanned the meticulously arranged name cards, my stomach dropped. There were none for Liam, Ava, or me. Samantha approached the table, feigning surprise. "Oh dear," she said with exaggerated concern. "It seems the calligrapher didn't prepare cards for you, since, well, you weren't originally on the guest list." Her voice carried just enough to ensure the surrounding guests heard. Before I could respond, Cameron stepped in effortlessly. "Not a problem. Hey, Liam, Ava, want to sit by me?" He smiled, patting the chairs beside him. "And, Julia, there's a spot open between Mrs. Wilson and my mom." Grateful for his grace, I followed the kids to the table. My seat was between two elegantly dressed women, both older, both curious. As I adjusted my napkin, I noticed Samantha whispering to a server. He nodded, disappearing briefly before returning with 3 mismatched place settings. Our plates were clearly from a different set. It wasn't subtle. We were being accommodated, but not welcomed. The first course arrived, a delicate butternut squash bisque, topped with microgreens and a whisper of truffle oil. Liam eyed it with skepticism, but Ava dove in enthusiastically, spoon clinking happily against porcelain. "So, Julia," said Mrs. Wilson, leaning slightly toward me, "Samantha mentioned you work in healthcare." "Yes, I'm a pediatric nurse at Blue Ridge Regional Hospital," I replied, keeping my tone warm. "How noble," she said, and for a moment, her admiration seemed genuine. "My sister volunteered at a children's hospital last year. She found it intense." "It can be," I nodded, "but there's nothing more rewarding than watching a child recover. It gives you hope." From my other side, Cameron's mother chimed in. "And you're raising your children on your own?" "Yes, Ava and Liam. They're great kids." "They certainly seem it," she said kindly, watching Liam laugh at something Cameron whispered. "Polite, bright. You should be proud." A lump rose in my throat. After Samantha's passive jabs, this simple affirmation nearly undid me. "Thank you," I said softly. "I am." Across the table, Samantha was in full performance mode, regaling a group with stories of their recent ski weekend in Colorado. "Private instruction was worth every cent," she said with a gleam. "Our instructor trained Olympic hopefuls." A man seated nearby, Cameron's old friend, I guessed, cut in. "Speaking of pricey endeavors, how's that investment you mentioned? Did you two decide to buy in?" Cameron hesitated. "We're still reviewing our options. It might not be the right time with the renovations underway." "Oh, we're moving forward," Samantha interrupted, flashing a dazzling smile. "I already approved the designs. Italian marble, smart tech, fully voice-controlled." I sipped my water and looked at Ava. That marble wouldn't keep her warm at night, but love would. "It's going to be featured in Modern Interiors and Lifestyle magazine," Samantha announced, her voice pitched for maximum effect. I caught the flash of surprise on Cameron's face before he covered it with a practiced smile. I wondered how many of Samantha's ambitious upgrades and luxury features had quietly been financed by my so-called temporary loans over the years. The next course was served, a frisee salad topped with poached pears and candied pecans. Liam glanced nervously at the unfamiliar greens, but, catching my encouraging smile, cautiously took a bite. "So, what neighborhood do you live in?" asked a woman a few seats down, her diamond earrings glinting in the candlelight. Before I could respond, Samantha chirped in. "Julia lives in a charming spot just north of town, very up and coming." "Elmwood Park," I said clearly. "It's a great little community. Lots of trees, good schools, and local parks. We really love it there." The woman gave a polite nod, clearly unfamiliar with our modest suburb. "And where do your children go to school?" "My grandson just started at Crest Hill Academy." Again, Samantha jumped in. "They're in the public system. Julia's very involved in their education." "Ava and Liam attend Elmwood Elementary," I said, my tone steady. "Ava's in the gifted math track, and Liam's doing wonderfully in the arts program." As if on cue, Liam accidentally bumped his water glass. The fine crystal tipped, splashing water onto the pristine white tablecloth. His eyes went wide, panic rising in his face. "I'm sorry," he gasped, grabbing his napkin and dabbing frantically. Before I could speak, Samantha's voice cut across the table. This is exactly why children should eat separately until they've been properly trained for formal dining. The table felt uncomfortably quiet. Liam's lip trembled, and I saw Ava shoot a sharp glare across the table in defense of her little brother. Cameron leaned in with a grin. "Hey, buddy, no worries. When I was your age, I dumped a whole gravy boat on my dad's boss." His father chuckled from across the table. "Ruined the man's suit. But hey, suits are replaceable. Good company isn't." Their kindness eased the tension a bit. Samantha, however, looked like her Botox might crack from forced smiling. As servers cleared plates, she redirected the conversation. "We just hosted a charity gala for the Art Museum's new expansion. Raised over $300,000. "That's wonderful," said Cameron's mother, smiling. "Which programs will benefit from the funds?" Samantha blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Oh, various education initiatives, I believe." "Actually," another guest chimed in helpfully, "I think it's for the children's art therapy program. They're expanding access for underserved schools." Samantha nodded along as if she'd known it all along. "I believe it's primarily funding the new contemporary exhibition wing," said a man near the end of the table. "My wife's on the museum board." Samantha's smile grew taut. "Yes, exactly. That's what I meant." The main course arrived next. Herb-crusted rack of lamb with truffle mashed potatoes and haricots verts, all plated with artistic precision. The servers moved around the table in a smooth, choreographed rhythm, placing dishes silently and uniformly. I noticed Ava glance uncertainly at the array of silverware before her. I leaned in and whispered, "Start from the outside and work your way in." We had practiced this at home, but the real thing was intimidating. Samantha, of course, saw the moment and couldn't resist. "Ava, sweetheart," she said in a syrupy voice, "you're using your salad fork. The dinner fork is the larger one." Ava flushed and quickly adjusted. Samantha wasn't finished. "It's a lot to remember, isn't it?" she said to the table at large. "Proper dining etiquette really should be taught young, but I suppose public schools focus on other priorities." Several guests glanced at one another, their expressions tightening. Cameron's mother looked up sharply, but remained composed. Cameron, thankfully, was engrossed in a cheerful chat with Liam about different dinosaur species, choosing not to dignify the comment with a reaction. I replied calmly, "Actually, Ava and Liam have wonderful manners. 8-piece place settings just aren't part of our everyday life. But they learn quickly." "They certainly do," Cameron's mother said with warmth. She turned to Ava. "And you're doing beautifully, dear. I still forget which fork is which after all these years." Samantha's effort to humiliate had clearly missed its mark, but she wasn't done. She pivoted to the glass ornament I had brought, now displayed on a side table beside a pile of elaborate hostess gifts. "Julia brought the most unique ornament," she said, her tone light but edged. "Very folksy, hand-blown by a local artist." "It's lovely," Cameron's mother said. "May I see it?" The ornament was passed down the table. She held it delicately, turning it in her fingers with genuine appreciation. "This is beautiful work. Is it from that new studio downtown?" "Yes, Firelight Studios," I said. "The artist trained in Venice before settling here." "Oh, I have to stop by," she said, returning the ornament gently. "My sister would love something like this." Samantha's attempt to belittle the gift had only highlighted her own pettiness. Her smile was growing increasingly strained. Later, when Liam mentioned his school's upcoming science fair, Samantha couldn't help herself. "Well," she said, sipping her wine, "it's nice they try. The private schools, of course, have full labs with real equipment." But this time, I didn't let it slide. If you've ever stayed silent to keep the peace, only to realize your silence was mistaken for weakness, don't miss what happens next. Hit that subscribe button and join me as this Christmas dinner takes a turn no one saw coming. When Ava shyly shared that she had made the honor roll, Samantha smiled thinly. "That's wonderful, dear." Of course, at Brookridge Academy, all students are expected to maintain at least a 3.8 GPA. It's part of our academic standard. Each comment was delivered with poise, wrapped in false sweetness, but the intent was unmistakable. Every word served to elevate her world and quietly diminish ours. I kept calm, reminding myself that Ava and Liam were watching, absorbing not just the words, but how I responded. But I saw Ava's shoulders slump ever so slightly. I noticed Liam's once eager smile becoming more forced, and something shifted in me. Years of enduring Samantha's subtle digs, quietly bailing her out financially, and swallowing pride for the sake of family peace. All of it crystallized into one sharp moment of clarity. Then she struck again. "Liam's little suit is just adorable," she cooed. "You know, there's a fantastic secondhand boutique on the east side, perfect for families on a tight budget." I caught the flicker of shame in Liam's eyes. That was it. The end of polite silence. After dinner, guests moved into the grand room for coffee, desserts, and what Samantha announced as a traditional gift exchange among close friends. Clearly, we weren't included. No one had mentioned this beforehand, and I hadn't brought anything for the activity. Samantha made sure to highlight the oversight. "Don't worry, Julia," she said cheerfully, her voice pitched for the room to hear as servers handed out carefully wrapped parcels. "You couldn't have brought anything. You weren't originally, well, you know." Several guests looked visibly uncomfortable at her intentional exclusion. Cameron, ever the peacekeeper, jumped in. "Actually, let's consider Julia and the kids' gifts as our special exchange contribution this year. Christmas is about family, after all." He glanced warmly at Ava and Liam. I could have hugged him right then and there. One by one, guests opened their presents. Hand-poured candles, imported wines, embroidered cashmere. Then Samantha reached for our gift. "This one's from my sister," she said, holding up the silver-wrapped box. "It's handmade, I believe?" Her voice dipped slightly on handmade, as if I'd handed her a string of pasta beads. She tore the paper with performative carelessness, revealing the artisan scarf I had chosen from a local Asheville studio. Soft silk, hand-dyed in rich tones of emerald and plum. "Oh," she said with theatrical pause. "It's colorful. Thank you, Julia. I'm sure it'll be perfect for gardening." The scarf was clearly anything but. Two women nearby leaned in to admire it. "That's stunning," one said. "Where did you find it?" Before I could answer, Samantha waved a dismissive hand. "Some little shop in Julia's neighborhood, I imagine." "They have the quaintest little shops over there," Samantha continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "Very budget-friendly." She set the scarf aside without further comment and turned her attention to the next guest's gift, gasping with delight over a monogrammed cheese board like it was a crown jewel. Beside me, Liam gently tugged on my sleeve. "Mom?" he whispered. "Aunt Samantha doesn't like us, does she?" I leaned toward him, brushing a hand over his shoulder. "Some people just don't know how to appreciate thoughtful gifts, sweetheart," I said softly. "That's a reflection on them, not the gift." Ava, overhearing, reached for my hand and gave it a quiet squeeze. My heart ached with pride. In the face of all this artfully disguised cruelty, my children still held onto kindness and grace. Meanwhile, Samantha launched into a series of funny childhood stories, each carefully selected to embarrass me. "Did you all know," she began, laughter already in her voice, "that Julia once showed up to my sweet 16 in a homemade purple dress? Our mom had tried to teach her to sew, and she was determined. But by the end of the night, the seams were practically falling apart." Polite chuckles floated around the room. What she left out was the truth. That our parents couldn't afford a store-bought dress that month because our father was recovering from surgery, and I had spent 3 nights at the kitchen table stitching every inch myself, refusing to ask for money we didn't have. "And in college," she continued with a sly grin, "she dated this guy who worked at the bookstore. He didn't have a car. He'd pick her up on a bicycle with a milk crate strapped to the back. Can you imagine?" I could. He was sweet. He was saving every penny for medical school. The crate was so I wouldn't have to walk to our dates. Samantha wasn't done. "It's truly admirable how Julia manages with the kids, considering their situation," she said, voice projecting just enough to reach every corner of the room. "Public school, no father figure, that neighborhood. It's not what I'd choose, obviously, but Julia's always seemed content with less." Ava and Liam heard it. I saw it in their faces. Ava's cheeks flushed pink, And Liam's lip quivered just slightly. And that was it. 15 years of swallowing insults, of financing Samantha's fantasy life, of putting her comfort above my own children's dignity, ended with those words. I rose slowly, smoothing the fabric of my dress with deliberate grace. I lifted my champagne glass, my voice unwavering. "Excuse me," I said to the room. "I'd like to propose a toast." The room quieted. Champagne flutes paused mid-air, conversation stalled, and every pair of eyes turned toward me. Some guests looked intrigued, others deeply uncomfortable. Samantha's face paled slightly as a server placed a fresh flute in my hand. I raised my glass with a soft smile. First, I want to thank Samantha and Cameron for including us in such a beautiful Christmas gathering. Family moments like these, especially around the holidays, are truly priceless. Samantha's shoulders loosened, her expression softening. She thought I was diffusing tension. Not tonight. "I'd like to toast my sister," I continued, "to Samantha, who's built a stunning life for herself, always with such discerning taste." A few guests nodded or murmured in agreement. Samantha beamed, lifting her glass. "So discerning," I went on, "that maintaining her lifestyle has required roughly $4,000 a month for the past 15 years. The room went dead silent. Samantha's smile shattered. "You see," I said, voice calm, "while my sister has spent the evening recounting stories about my humble little life, she conveniently forgot to mention that her designer shoes, spa memberships, luxury trips, and quite a few pieces of this lovely home have been funded, quietly, by the nurse sister she didn't want on the guest list." Whispers spread. A few gasps. Even Cameron looked dazed, his head turning toward Samantha. "For those of you who like numbers," I added, "that's roughly $720,000 over 15 years. Money I could have used for Ava and Liam's college savings, or for a home in a neighborhood Samantha wouldn't be embarrassed to mention." I pulled out my phone and tapped into my banking app. I have records of every wire, every card I paid off, every time she called me in tears because her platinum card was declined at the salon or while booking a first-class flight. "Julia, stop it!" Samantha hissed under her breath, her voice sharp and panicked. "You're humiliating yourself." "No," I said softly. "For the first time in 15 years, I'm not humiliating myself. I'm just telling the truth." I turned to Cameron, who was staring at Samantha like he no longer recognized her. "I'm sorry you're hearing this like this. I believed her when she said you knew. I thought this arrangement was open." Cameron's jaw tightened. "Samantha? Is she telling the truth?" Samantha's face twisted. "She's exaggerating. It was just a few loans. Years ago, when we were starting out." I calmly scrolled through my phone. "Let's see. Last month alone, there's the spa, the boutique in Charlotte, and oh, your emergency Christmas decorator deposit. $3,000 for the landscaping deposit. $800 for your spa retreat. $1,200 for those designer boots you couldn't possibly go through winter without." I glanced around the room. Shall I continue? The silence was suffocating. Even the servers had frozen, caught in the gravity of the moment. "So," I concluded, raising my glass, "here's to my stepsister, who loves to play wealthy. And I'll take this moment to make a public service announcement. Effective immediately, your luxuries are no longer on my tab." I smiled. "Merry Christmas, Samantha." I took a sip of champagne, set the glass down with care, and turned to my children. "Ava, Liam, it's time to go. Please thank Uncle Cameron for having us." Liam looked puzzled, but obeyed, murmuring a polite thank you. Ava, mature beyond her years, quietly gathered her things. Her gaze was steady. She understood. Something big had just shifted. As we made our way toward the exit, Cameron's mother appeared beside me and gently pressed a business card into my hand. Her personal number was written on the back. "Call me," she whispered. "That was brave. You have my respect." We walked through the room, past Samantha's stunned circle of friends, and retrieved our coats from the mudroom. Outside, the air was cold and clear. Snow crunched beneath our boots as we crossed the driveway. I felt lighter, like I had finally unshackled myself from something invisible but heavy. We were nearly at the car when I heard footsteps behind us. fast and unsteady. Turning, I saw Cameron, his expression a storm of disbelief, frustration, and something deeper. Betrayal. "Julia, wait," he called. "We need to talk." Behind him, Samantha was hurrying after him, her heels skidding awkwardly on the icy stone steps. One ankle twisted, and she stumbled before regaining her balance. "Kids, get in the car, please," I said, opening the doors. "Turn on your tablets. I need a moment with your aunt and uncle." They nodded and climbed in without protest, solemn and silent. I turned to face them. "How dare you?" Samantha spat, her voice sharp and shaking. "You've humiliated me in front of everyone who matters." "How dare I?" I repeated, the words tasting bitter. "You called my children low class. You mocked their clothes, their school, their lives, and you're the one who's humiliated?" Cameron turned to me, his voice low. "You've been helping her financially? Since when?" I met his eyes. "For 15 years, since just after your wedding. It started small. Overdue credit cards, shopping binges she forgot to tell you about. Samantha always told me it was temporary, that she and Cameron were still building things, and access to the family trust was delayed. But over time, the temporary became routine. The amounts crept up. The promises stayed the same." Cameron rubbed his hand over his face, clearly reeling. "The spa packages? The wardrobe updates? The first-class upgrades on every trip?" "Most of it," I said, nodding. "Not all, but a significant share." "She's twisting this," Samantha said quickly, her voice tight with desperation. "It wasn't like that. Julia offered to help. She wanted to. It was sisterly support, not charity." Cameron held out his hand. "Let me see your phone." I hesitated, then opened my banking app, handed him the screen. He scrolled in silence, his jaw tightening with each swipe. "Monthly transfers," he murmured. $3,000 to $5,000 every month for years. Direct payments to Nordstrom, the club, Saks. He looked up at her. "Samantha, what the hell?" "Cameron, please." Her voice cracked. "It's not what you think." "You told me your parents left you a small investment account," he said, voice low, eyes locked on hers. "That's how you paid for the pool house landscaping." I meant to tell you." "And Bali? You told me that was a holiday bonus from a private client. You said they flew you out for consultation." She couldn't meet his eyes. "I needed to tell you later. You wouldn't have agreed to any of it if you knew." "No," he said sharply. "I wouldn't have. Because this isn't just about money. This is about lies. And using your sister like a personal ATM while mocking her children over a dinner table." I stood there, coat pulled tight around me, aware of the snow beneath my heels, of the heat inside the car where Ava and Liam waited. Behind Cameron, I could see silhouettes pressed to the grand windows, watching. "This isn't my fight anymore," I said gently. "It never should have been." Samantha turned to me, something raw flickering in her expression. "You were never supposed to say anything." "No," I said, my voice steady, "but I should have. Years ago." I stepped back toward the car, my breath fogging in the cold air. "This conversation is between you two now? My part?" I gave a small shake of my head. "It's over." I opened the driver's side door. Ava looked up, her eyes searching mine. Liam was quiet, his tablet in his lap, untouched. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the outsider. "I won't be sending any more money, Samantha. Not a dollar," I said, my voice calm but unwavering. "You'll need to be honest with Cameron about your finances and make the changes your situation requires." "You can't just cut me off," she said, panic slipping into her voice. "What about the Amex? The balance is due next week, and I already booked the New Year's spa package." Her desperation, her inability to process the word no, only confirmed I'd made the right decision. "Those are your problems now, not mine," I replied. "I have my own family to take care of." "We are your family," she snapped. "Yes," I nodded. "You are. And family treats each other with respect, not with contempt." Her expression shifted, disbelief etched into every line of her face. "When you're ready to have a relationship based on respect, not handouts, I'll be here. But until then, I need to focus on Ava and Liam. Cameron, who had stood silently through most of the exchange, finally spoke. Julia, I want you to know I had no idea. If I had, I never would have allowed it. I believe you, I said softly, and I'm sorry you had to find out this way. He gave a solemn nod, then turned to his wife. We need to go back inside. Your guests are waiting. But when they're gone, we are going to have the most honest conversation we've ever had. Samantha's carefully painted face cracked. The mask she'd worn so well, the poised hostess, the wealthy wife, the image of perfection shattered. And for a moment, I saw her not as the antagonist of the evening, but as the scared little sister I used to protect, the one who never felt good enough, who believed she had to become someone else to be worthy. A part of me wanted to step forward, to promise her it would all be okay. But another part, the part that had finally learned how to stand tall, knew this reckoning was necessary, for both of us. Goodbye, Samantha, I said quietly. Merry Christmas. As I turned to get into the car, I heard her call my name. When I looked back, she stood alone on the snowy drive, mascara streaking down her cheeks, looking suddenly small. What am I supposed to do now? She asked. For once, there was no performance, just fear. You figure it out, I said, like the rest of us do, one day at a time. I slid into the car and drove away, past the mansion and its glowing windows, toward our small home where the tree was hand-decorated, the cocoa was instant, and the love was real. In the rearview mirror, I saw Ava and Liam, quiet but wide-eyed. Tomorrow, we'd talk about why setting boundaries is love, why wealth isn't worth without character, and why telling the truth, even when it hurts, is how you finally start to heal. But for tonight, as we drove through the quiet, snow-dusted streets of Asheville, I simply reached back and squeezed Ava and Liam's hands, grateful for the authentic, imperfect, honest life we shared. Free at last from the burden of upholding someone else's illusion. The drive home from Samantha's estate felt surreal, like we weren't just moving between zip codes, but between worlds. Holiday lights blinked gently along the narrow roads, and lazy snowflakes drifted through the headlights like pieces of ash from a smoldering fire we'd finally stepped away from. In the back seat, the kids were quiet, each processing the night in their own way. Are you mad at Aunt Samantha? Liam asked softly. I thought about it. Not mad, exactly. More disappointed. Sometimes people we love make choices that hurt us, and it's okay to feel sad about that. Is she still family? Ava's voice was steady but uncertain, cutting right to the heart of it. Of course, I said. Family is forever, even when things get messy. But sometimes, people need space to figure things out. As we pulled into the driveway, our modest two-bedroom bungalow welcomed us with a glow of multicolored lights twinkling from the tree in the front window. No designer garlands or towering evergreens, just the decorations we'd unpacked with joy a week earlier, each ornament a memory. Inside, I kicked off my heels and traded the tension of the evening for an impromptu Christmas Eve do-over. How about hot chocolate and a holiday movie? I suggested, shaking off my coat. That fancy party wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Can we open one present? Liam asked, eyes hopeful. I smiled. Absolutely. Within half an hour, we were curled on the couch in our party clothes and blankets, sipping hot cocoa with mini marshmallows as How the Grinch Stole Christmas played. Laughter returned. Both kids opened one gift, new pajamas, which they immediately changed into. By the time they went to bed, the tension from Samantha's mansion had melted away into the warmth of our little home. I sat by the Christmas tree, finally exhaling. For 15 years, I had carried the weight of someone else's expectations, bankrolling a fantasy while delaying my own dreams. Tonight, I had broken that pattern. The grief was real, but so was the relief. My phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. How did it go? I texted back. Kids are asleep. I'm okay. I'll call you tomorrow. She replied instantly. Proud of you? Merry Christmas. No more funding drama queens. Christmas morning brought new snow, and with it, the laughter of two children who, for a moment, had forgotten the drama. and remembered the magic. We FaceTimed with Jack, the kids' father, who wished them a warm, Merry Christmas from his new place in San Diego. Though our relationship had ended years ago, we kept things friendly, for Ava and Liam's sake. Later that afternoon, while the kids played with their new art sets, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Julia, I hope I'm not disturbing your Christmas." Cameron's voice came through, weary but sincere. "I just wanted to make sure you and the kids got home safely last night." "We did, thank you," I replied, stepping into the kitchen for privacy. "How are things on your end?" He exhaled slowly. "Tense. After everyone left, Samantha and I actually talked. Really talked. For the first time in what feels like forever." I stayed quiet, letting him speak. "I had no idea about the financial arrangement between you two," he admitted. "I'm still trying to wrap my head around it." "I get it. It's a lot," I said gently. "I've frozen all our cards," he continued. "Started pulling our account statements. There are things I didn't know about. Loans in my name I never approved. Credit lines I didn't even know existed." My stomach turned. "Cameron, I'm so sorry." "Don't be. You're not the one who lied," he said. "But I am sorry for how she treated you. And the kids. It was inexcusable." His words caught me off guard. "Thank you. That means more than you know." "We've agreed to get help," he added. "Financial counseling. Marriage counseling. It won't be easy." Then his voice softened. "She's not doing well, Julia. Under all the pride, there's someone who spent her whole life terrified of not measuring up." "It doesn't excuse her behavior," I said. "No," he agreed. "But maybe it explains some of it." After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table, in silence, processing his words. Had I contributed somehow? Had my endless reliability, my refusal to let her fall, kept her from ever learning to stand? In the days that followed, I moved between emotions, freedom mixed with guilt, clarity shaded with grief. Still, the practical results were immediate. Without the monthly financial drain, my bank balance stabilized. I opened a college savings account for each child, booked an inspection to finally replace our sputtering HVAC unit. And I called a therapist. I needed help to untangle 15 years of emotional and financial entanglement. In those sessions, I started seeing what I'd been too close to recognize. My need to rescue Samantha had become tied to my own identity. I wasn't just helping, I was disappearing. 2 weeks after Christmas, an envelope arrived bearing Samantha's handwriting. Inside was a personal check for $5,000, just a fraction of what I'd given her over the years, but meaningful nonetheless. Attached was a note, written in simple ink. A start. I'm sorry. S. I deposited the check, but didn't respond. One gesture, even a financial one, didn't undo years of exploitation and quiet disrespect. I needed more than words. I needed change. In late January, Cameron called again. "Samantha's been working on herself," he said. "She'd really like to apologize properly, but she also understands if you're not ready." After a pause, I agreed to meet. Neutral ground only. We settled on a quiet cafe off a tree-lined road halfway between our homes. No glamour, no expectations. When I arrived, I barely recognized her. Gone were the tailored coats and silk scarves. Samantha sat at a small corner table in jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a modest ponytail, her hands nervously twisting a napkin. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly after we ordered coffee. "I've been trying to figure out how to say this, how to explain, but there isn't an explanation that makes what I did okay." "No," I agreed, calm but direct. "There isn't. The money, the years of taking without giving," she continued, her voice cracking. "But even worse was the way I treated you, treated Ava and Liam. Like I was above you, when the truth is, you were the one holding me up the whole time." She looked down, ashamed. "I hated who I really was. So much. I built this version of myself to fit in. And eventually, I started believing it." "We came from the same house, Samantha," I said gently. "Same parents, same values. When did appearances start meaning more than love?" She stared into her coffee. Middle school, maybe, when the popular girls teased me about my thrift store jacket. Or high school, when I wasn't invited to lake house parties because I wasn't their kind. I made a vow to become their kind, no matter what it took. For the first time, I saw how differently we had experienced our childhood. Where I'd seen resilience, she'd absorbed shame. "We're selling the house," Cameron said, stepping in, downsizing, back to something within our actual budget. "And I'm starting an entry-level design assistant job next month," Samantha added. "It's real work, honest." "We're in financial counseling," Cameron nodded, "learning what a budget actually means." Our conversation was careful, honest. There were still wounds, but also willingness. I kept my boundaries firm, but my heart just open enough. This wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something just as important. A beginning. Samantha sent regular payments toward what she now acknowledged as a debt, not gifts. More importantly, she showed genuine interest in our lives, joining us for Liam's school play and cheering Ava on at her district-wide math competition without a single dig at public education. 6 months after that unforgettable Christmas Eve, we celebrated Ava's 11th birthday with a backyard cookout, the kind where laughter echoed off the fence and everyone wore sneakers instead of heels. Samantha and Cameron arrived without pretense, bringing Ava a thoughtfully chosen chemistry set and Liam a birdhouse kit. Gone were the designer heels and the condescending air. When Ava excitedly pulled her aunt aside to show her a working model of the solar system she'd built, Samantha actually knelt beside her, asking curious questions and genuinely marveling at the design. "I never thought I'd say this," Rachel whispered to me as we watched from the porch. "But your sister seems real now." "She's trying," I said quietly. "And so are we." But the most meaningful changes weren't Samantha's. They were ours. Freed from the financial weight of supporting my sister's illusions, I finally cut back on hospital overtime and reclaimed time with Ava and Liam. That summer, we spent a full week at a rustic cabin near Lake Lure. No cell signal, no schedules, just campfires, hikes, and a lot of healing. Ava began asserting herself more confidently, even correcting a teacher who misattributed her science fair data. Liam confronted a classmate bullying his friend, not with fists, but calm, firm words. "You taught us it's okay to say no to people who don't treat you right. Even family," Ava told me one night as I tucked her in. "It's one of the most important lessons," I said. "Loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you." A year later, we gathered again for Christmas. Not in a mansion, but in Samantha and Cameron's modest, cozy bungalow. The food was home-cooked, the decorations handmade by their kids' art class, and the atmosphere was warm in a way money can't fake. Samantha, now working full-time at a local design firm, seemed more grounded, more herself. "I'd like to propose a toast," Cameron said, lifting his glass. "To family. Not perfect, but honest. And to new beginnings." "To new beginnings," we echoed. That night, with Ava and Liam fast asleep in the back seat, I whispered a silent thank you to the woman I used to be, the one who finally chose truth over peace. Because in doing so, we found both. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story, and more importantly, for seeing me. This past year has changed everything for me and my kids. I used to think keeping the peace meant staying quiet, saying yes, sacrificing my own needs to keep others comfortable, even when it hurt. But I've learned that true peace only comes when you stand up, speak the truth, and set boundaries. Even if your voice shakes, I'd love to know what you think. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you loved in order to protect your peace, or if you've struggled with family expectations, please leave a comment below. I read every single one, and your stories mean more to me than you know. And if my story moved you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Not just to hear what happens next in my journey, but to be part of a community that believes in self-respect, resilience, and real love. The kind that doesn't require you to shrink yourself to be accepted. You deserve a life where your worth isn't tied to your wallet, your background, or anyone else's approval. We're rewriting what family means, one story at a time. Join me